here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Margie Rafferty-Pichot, and this is, I forget how many years I've been part of PIC, maybe 4 now, I think. Several as chairperson and several as representatives like the rest of you. Let's get started. I'm going to give you some just general ideas of what your responsibilities are for those of you who are new PIC members. And just a note that Chris Rotolo with the district is now going to be taping all the meetings, and then I guess they're going to be posted on the district website. So we've been pushing for this for quite some time now. We feel like PIC covers some very, very valuable topics, and I'm very happy to see that we're now going to get that message out there for everyone. So, ways to bring topic to PIC. Typically what I ask you to do is I will be, if you're not already, you'll be part of a general email that will go out, periodically with information pushes, that kind of stuff. If you have any issues that parents bring to you, feel free to bring them directly to me, and then I will give them to the administration. If we can get you an answer offline, we will. If we can't, and if it's a broader issue, we will bring it here to PIC, and then it will be addressed so that everyone can take advantage of it. Also, general rules of order, please note that this is only a place to discuss what's important to your school, not to your child and not to yourself. Okay. We've run into some problems with, over the years with conversations getting sidetracked where the discussion sort of goes to, well, my child, now of course it's obvious that when you have your own child, you're speaking from your own experience. So I'm not saying don't say, well, my child has had this experience. I'm saying typically, if it's a concern that you have directly about your own child and it doesn't speak to a broader issue in your school, please table it offline and then bring it to me and we'll get it discussed. And that way the conversation can keep flowing. Your basic responsibilities as a PIC member are 2 things. Attend the meetings if you can. Send an alternate if you have one when you can't, and make sure that your version of the minutes and the version of the minutes that I will send you get posted to your PTO, PTA, or PFA website within a week after you receive them. Other than that, that's pretty much it as far as formal responsibilities. The only other, the last thing I ask is if every school could donate $10 now that we've kind of scaled back to coffee and we'd like to start bringing in treats again. We're going to use what we call like a sunshine fund, so we ask every school to donate $10, and then each meeting going forward, hopefully we'll have like some bagels and some fruit or something else that we can share as a group. But okay, so that's it for me, and let's get started with the agenda. I turn it over to Mrs. Kristen Gillette, who's going to talk about Kortney's Cash for the Cure.
Thanks, Margie. I'm just going to come up here so you guys can all see me. My name is Kristen Gillette. Some of you are probably returning, but if you're new, my husband and I, unfortunately lost a daughter to a brain tumor in 2006. Her name was Kortney Rose, is her middle name. And it was very quick. Overnight, our lives changed. She was happy and healthy one minute, the next day she was a brain tumor patient, and then in less than 5 months she passed away. So it was fast, and our lives turned upside down. And one of the things I found out when we were at Children's Hospital Philadelphia is that less than 4% of the federal government's research budget through the National Institute of Health goes to all pediatric cancers. So that means 96% of research goes to adults and less for kids. That was unacceptable to me, and also to have the doctors say there's absolutely nothing we can do for your child. So those 2 things prompted me to throw up my hands and say, I need to do something about this. So we started the Kortney Rose Foundation, and we raise money for pediatric research. One of the keys that we do, though, is we help build a collaborative consortium out of Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. It's a big mouthful. It's called the Children's Brain Tumor Tissue Consortium. And we started funding it immediately when the doctor came to me, because I said, why don't all the doctors and hospitals work together? I don't get it. So within a couple of years, the doctor came to me and said, we're going to do what you wanted. We're going to share tissue from brain tumors, because that's the key to research, and we're going to share the data immediately instead of holding on to it for publication, which is a big problem. Because if a researcher finds a cure and they're holding on to that to get notoriety and credit through a publication, it can take 4 to 10 years. If they have a cure for the kind of tumor Kortney had, every child dies from it. So if you're holding on for credit and you have a cure for what my child had and all the children who will die in that time frame, that's just selfish. So families like myself and my small foundation are pushing for change, and we're funding that change through this consortium, because now when you find something, you share it right back into the first data cloud that they built. What we started as 4 US hospitals is now 17 worldwide. And it's beyond brain tumors now. It's having implications in all pediatric cancers, but also all pediatric diseases. Now the National Institute of Health took notice of what we were doing at CHOP and gave them the largest grant ever to create it's called the Kids First Data Resource Center. They're building off this small framework we had for the cancer data cloud, and they're bringing in all pediatric diseases to compare. So now cross-disease research is going to be the norm, and we helped to build that model. So what I never anticipated to, where we started to help remember my daughter and to fund research, to be at this level because of our partnership with CHOP is amazing. Every year in the past, this is I think our 4th year, we have been doing a school-wide or district-wide fundraiser called Kortney's Cash for the Cure. And it's grown tremendously. Last year, our goal was $10,000, and we superseded it. So last year, the amount was $10,312, which over the previous year was an increase of almost $3,000. So thank you for that. This is going to start, the materials are coming to the central office on October 15th, and it will run till November 15th. And I'm going to run through it real quick. This bag will come to each office at your school. In this bag will be an envelope like this. Each teacher will get this envelope, and in the envelope will be enough supplies for their classroom, their homeroom. It'll include a letter that you guys have, the letter, and I passed out the little envelope. This envelope has an information card in it, tells you about the Kortney Rose Foundation, and then we ask that the child bring this home, put whatever amount, any amount is appreciated. It could be $1, it could be 50 cents. It all adds up to that 10,000. And that's what I reiterate when I go into the schools to every child. I don't care if it's a quarter, it all makes a difference. So as Dr. George coined it, it's kids helping kids. And so now I stole that from him and I use it all the time. But so then they'll return this to their teacher, and then we'll tally by homeroom. And the class that raises the most in each school, I have a trophy that is for their school, and it rotates according to which class wins, and I'll come in and present the trophy to them, and we'll get a class picture. So that's pretty much how it works. I think that most people know how it works at this point. One of the things is, if you want to get involved, you don't have to, but we don't know if the staff will be counting the money when it comes in. If they're not and you're available, or if you want to help them on the day the money's returned, which would be November 15th, they have a couple days before they have to return the bags full of the envelopes to the central office. Everything has to be back here on the 19th. So 15th is the last day, they'll have till the 19th to get it here. So that's pretty much how the fundraiser works. And a little bit about Kortney Rose Foundation. I forgot a key part. So in the past 13 years, we're responsible for over $2.3 million in research funding. So, and that's because everyone helps through this fundraiser. $10,000 goes a long way. It could be seed funding for a brand new researcher. You could start a research program. So it's really important. Brain tumors are the #1 cause of death by all disease in children. Most people don't know that. And so that's why we need to focus a little bit more on them. Does anybody have any questions for me? All right, thank you so much for listening. I know it's a heavy topic to start the day.
Margie, Christian, when Margie and Kristen Gillette brought this to me like 4 years ago, I said it really does fit in with our personalized learning initiative. We now have a spring event too with Infinite Love. So it is a great opportunity for our students to get involved. Some more than others. We've had students really involved with passion projects. There's a tremendous push for the Kortney Rose Foundation out of River Plaza. River Plaza parents know they actually participated in the summer 5K, and I think they raised an incredible amount of money in the summer too. So that's the second thing we do. We also have Infinite Love. They're going to come here in the winter. I met with them most recently. We're going to be doing a kickoff in the winter to the spring shave. Some of you might have seen some pictures. I participated in that spring shave. That's going to change. They're in the process of redoing that. So we have one event in the spring and one event in the fall, and it's a great way for kids to get involved in helping kids. And then the other thing, and as a matter of fact, Infinite Love actually just made a donation to that tissue consortium at CHOP. So there is a positive symbiotic relationship there. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Walker and to Stacy and Stella and the last one.
Good morning. We're going to give you a little update on how how before and after care is going this year, which I can say we're pleased. But I'd like to introduce to you Stacy and Stella, Leanne Wagner, Max Hogan, and Brian Elsasser. I'm also going to hand out, this is what we call the dashboard. Once a month, the Y is providing information to us and the board on certain data points for the before and after care and also the counseling services. So I just wanted you to see what we're getting, and this is as of September 30th, so pretty much 2 weeks into school. So let me just take this out. I got it. I counted them out.
So we turn it over to Stacy now?
Yeah, sorry.
And
That's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us here this morning. Again, this is Leanne Wagner, our Vice President of Counseling and Social Services. This just helps you put a name to a face. Brian Elsasser is our School Age Director, and Max Hogan is your Regional Coordinator. What does that mean? So we have 40 before and after school programs that we run out of the greater YMCA of Greater Monmouth County. Trying to get used to saying that. We just merged. We were the community Y, we just merged. We're now the second largest Y in New Jersey. What does that mean? For you guys, we have 40 before and after school programs, but you are our largest district, and we're really happy to be back here. This is our 11th school year with you guys, so we're excited to start the school year with you. Out of our 12 elementary schools, which we are in all 12 of your schools for our before and after school program, we have 970 kids currently registered. It's a lot of kids, and I'm sure we will get that up to 1,000. So we're actually ahead of where we were last year with our registration. All schools have before and after, as most of you know. In the schools, we're utilizing as much space as possible, because some of our schools, we average between 30 kids a day, and then we have some sites that are over 90 a day. So we worked closely with the school principals to make sure that the kids are spreading out and utilizing more spaces within your school buildings. Makes it so that we can have more age-appropriate activities. We've started doing some social emotional learning. We've grown with our CATCH program, which is our healthy food, nutrition, and physical activities before and after school. And then we are also going to begin our tutoring Thursday. So I met yesterday, Brian and Max and I met with a few teachers within your district that are interested in working tutoring Thursdays. What will that be? Starting next week, we will have tutoring Thursdays for about an hour, hour and a half, an extra staff member from your schools that will be there, because a lot of the kids have testing on Fridays. So we figured it's great to have an extra tutor in the room. Maybe they'll take them into the classroom, so it's a smaller, quieter environment where they could get ready for their tests on Friday. So that will begin next week. We're just in the process of hiring at least one per school. We might have a backup substitute, so if they can't be there or something happens, or the need grows, we're going to measure it out, see what the need is like. We may have to have two at some of the schools. I'm going to pass it off to Leanne so she can give you an update on our counseling and social services, but if you have any questions, we'll be here. And Leanne Steph.
Good morning, everybody. So we have some good news. We are currently providing services in 10 of the 17 schools in the district. We started off right on the first day of school. Clinicians have been in communication with the school counselors, with the principals, and we are rocking and rolling in those schools already. We are working with central office to finish out the licensure process for the remaining 7, which is the 2 high schools, Thompson, Middle Village, Croft, and there's 2 other elementary schools that we're not in yet, and off the top of my head I can't remember they are. But we should be in there by the end of November, if not then by the beginning of December. So we should have a whole year basically in those schools as well. Currently I think I have 8 clinicians assigned to the district. 2 are full-time at this point. So we definitely have the resources and are able to work with each school. Do you guys have any questions on that? Yes.
What services are offered? So if a parent were to ask us, so you have these services,
so we offer traditional outpatient mental health counseling. So anxiety, depression, ADHD, we work with some kids who are on the spectrum. Basically, if you were to send your child or have somebody refer a child to an outpatient behavioral health facility, we do the same thing they do, but we bring it to the school. It alleviates the obstacles of scheduling, so we offer it during the school day. It alleviates the obstacles of transportation, because oftentimes come 3 o'clock, we're all parents, we all know what that looks like. We have all of the sports activities, tutoring, dance, whatever it is that our kids are involved in, and sometimes behavioral health does not remain the top priority. So we're able to offer it during the school day.
Can you just explain how that goes about? So say a parent was interested, what is the process? Who do they reach out to, and how does that take place during the school day?
So in this district, the point of contact is either the principal or the school counselor. Both the principals and the school counselors are aware of the program. They know how to access us. They have a referral form. What would happen is you would give the parent the referral form. They would fill out all of the information. They would talk about it with the school counselor to understand a little bit more about how it works. We have a flyer that gets circulated. I believe it's on the district website as well. Once that happens, the school counselor will fax us the referral form. We enter it into our system. The clinical supervisor reviews it, assigns it to a clinician. The school is notified that the student has been assigned to the clinician, and then the clinician reaches out to the family to establish contact and to start services.
Excuse me. So to start that for a child who is not currently registered for aftercare, they need to register for aftercare too.
No. We partner in the district, but our services are separate in that you don't have to be involved in one to get the other. You can be involved in both. It doesn't, one does not mean you get the other or what have you. But if you want to access the counseling services, you would go to the principal or your school counselor, and they know how to access me directly.
Is it entirely parent directed? If you think your child needs services, is it automatic that they will automatically qualify, or is there some sort of professional assessment that says we think your kid needs
it? If you are saying, oftentimes what happens is you'll go to the school and say, listen, I feel like my son or my daughter is struggling with anxiety, or they're struggling with homework, or they're freaking out about going to school. You can have that conversation and you can say, we know that you offer Y counseling in the school. Is that something that you can help me get connected with? And they absolutely will.
Okay.
So, and oftentimes, if that's happening at home, sometimes it's happening in school, and they're reaching out to you for the same reason, to say, hey, we're noticing, your son is struggling a little bit. Would you be interested in this? So don't be surprised if they reach out to you, but you can reach out to the school and say, I know that we have this here. It would really be a great resource for my child. How do I get them enrolled? And they will help you get enrolled. Just so you guys know, from a financial standpoint, it is an outpatient service, so it is billed through insurance or Medicaid. So in the district, we accept Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, or Medicaid, which is New Jersey Family Care. That's what we can accept in the school. For those families that don't have that, if we have to, we can work on a self-pay fee. We can give a sliding scale. Oftentimes that's still a little difficult for some families. If you don't have any of those insurances, we can still service you, but it would have to be in the outpatient office in Mattawa, because that's all that we are contracted to accept in the district.
When during the day do the kids get pulled? Is it during specials? Does it rotate throughout the week?
We work with each school individually, because each school has their own policy on when and how. For like the middle schools and the high school, they get pulled during lunch, during special, or something like that. For the elementary schools, who typically don't have that kind of rotating block schedule, we'll work directly with the teacher to see when's the best time. We don't ever pull out of language arts, we don't ever pull out of math, we don't ever pull out of science. Your big classes we don't ever pull out of, but if it's special or lunch or library time, And often the kids are looking forward to coming, so they're not upset about missing going to the library per se.
So the parent has a child who doesn't have any kind of like behavioral issues at school, but it's more of like behavioral issues at home. Is that still something that you guys would handle with the counselor in the school?
Right.
Okay.
You would still try and access us through the school,
Okay.
so that way you could get the services during the school day. And here's the other piece that you guys should be aware of is for your child or any child to participate in this program, it's a voluntary program, but they're your child. You need to be involved. At the very least, every 90 days, you need to be seen by the clinician to sign a treatment plan. And at least every 2 weeks, you should be in contact with your counselor to say, hey, what's going on with my kid? My staff reaches out to parents on a regular basis to try and give updates on what's going on and how their child is progressing. We get a release to communicate with the school so the school counselor and the teachers know what's going on and that we're working on a couple of things to try and help them be more successful in school as well. But you guys, parents should be involved in this process. It's not just, sign off on it and you're done. They have to be involved in the process.
Is any patient information ever shared with district?
Only if a release is signed. So, for example, if a parent comes in and says, all you can release to the district is my child is compliant and attending, that's all we can release to the district. If you give us carte blanche and say you can tell the district whatever, we will use discretion, but we will share we're working on depression and coping skills. We'll give them a little bit extra information, but it's not like if your son or daughter comes in and tells me their entire life story, I'm going to turn around to Dr. Jordan and be like, hey, you want to know everything? It doesn't work that way. We are professionals. We abide by ethics and use discretion as necessary.
And Leanne, the reason how that would normally happen, because there's a lot of times that the school district, social behavioral support specialist, administrator may, in communication with the parents, present the option as well. I mean, as already stated, you can go directly through the YMCA, or we can work as a team. It just on a very individual basis, based on what's in the best interest of the child and what the parent wants to do. You parents are the experts in your children. You know the special circumstances. You know whether or not it's school related or completely independent from school, whether or not you want the school counselors to know, or teachers or administrative team, or any combination of that, or you do not. But we can collaborate, or we don't have to.
That's
We
right.
often do. We often do.
We often
don't,
do. Yeah.
but we don't have to.
Well, we don't have to.
Takes a village.
I assume all the teachers have been notified. I mean, this sounds like an amazing service. I mean, we've had.
Well, you're from Thompson, so we're not there yet. So
Okay.
teachers don't know yet. They will know. All of the teachers in the schools that we're in, the 10 that we're in, are aware. The 2 newest schools that we just started in September are River Plaza and Fairview. Thank you.
And the principal, just so you know, in August, we had a nice get-together in August. We had a presentation of exactly what the services are like. The principals, like Maureen, who had already been receiving the services, talked about what it was, put on it. So, our administrative team is completely on board, aware, and
So you said it would be in November for the middle school?
We're shooting for November, beginning of December latest. It's a licensing process. We have to go through the state, and we're just gathering some documents from the district to be able to submit those licenses.
And how will it be communicated to those schools?
I've already been in communication with those principals. They know that it's coming, and once we're licensed, I personally go out and license each site with the state, and then once that's done, I meet with the schools and the school counselors and train them on the process, and then we work on a plan to communicate that it's available to the parents as well.
And how are your parents communicating?
Usually it's sent out through the district at that point, or the schools can send it out, or virtual backpack.
Because we don't have emails
Yeah,
and
we don't.
addresses, so the school district would do it.
The district would do that. The principals will send that information out or share it. I know that for the schools that we're in, a lot of our flyers are on their websites already. It's
Start
already
building
back to school night. Yeah, we
as
started
it's
to build
coming
that.
online.
So this is a question for the administrators. How does this work for kids with IEPs that are getting counseling services? And also, how does this interact with effective school solutions?
So, independent from Effective School Solutions, unless there's a collaboration, again, it's like every other child, that collaboration would only come through, the wishes and the wants of the parent, in addition to anything that they're already receiving. It does not directly relate to their IEP. These are additional services above and beyond, and they'd be treated like any other child.
I will also leave my business cards here on the counter, on the desk, so if anybody has any questions later, yeah.
One more question. So for students who use paras, let's say during their school day, how does that get handled in before and after care?
So our typical ratio for licensing is 1 to 15. We like to keep it at about 1 to 12. All of the site supervisors are now pulled out of ratio, and 5 of our schools that are the largest sites have full-time supervisors. So that means they're not in ratio. They're able to go back and forth between class and class, which we would probably want that child in one of the smaller environments. So they wouldn't be in the multipurpose room, they wouldn't be in the cafeteria, they would be in one of our quiet rooms, our library, our art room, our tech room. So depending on what school it's in, we would work with that child and with that parent to see what their needs are. And we have done that in many of our schools.
But I think it's important to state, they don't provide IEP services,
Correct.
so it would be handled on a very individual basis. So depending on what the needs of the child were, we have conversations, to try to figure out what's in the best interest of the child, and whether or not we're able to do that with the services that are provided at before and after care, whenever possible. We, on both sides, love the socialization opportunity.
Absolutely.
And just the opportunity for all students.
And a lot of times we don't know. So if a parent hasn't disclosed, because the school district's not allowed to disclose that to us. So the parents fill out forms, and we always have on that form, is there any additional information you want to share about your child, besides allergies and things like that. Sometimes they tell us, sometimes they forget to tell us. So we find that out quickly, and then we'll ask the parent, can we reach out to the school? Are they seeing a school counselor? Once we get their permission, then that's where we come into play together. What's nice is we're the same organization, and we work very closely. So if there is a need, a child's having some difficulty, and we want to bring in like an inclusive specialist or a counselor to help us, Max and Brian will reach out to Leanne and her staff, and then they'll get together and come up with a plan that best works for that child.
Regarding the tutoring services, I imagine when we bring this back to our schools, everyone's going to want to know more about that. That sounds something very interesting. Is there more information than just it's going to be offered for an hour and a half? I mean, how will it work? How do parents sign up for it?
Sure. So it's for our after-school program. Right. So if they're already in this after-school program, parents will be notified when it's getting started. Principals already know about it, because what we did back in August was we had a leadership meeting, and we informed all the principals we're going to start doing this, and then we sent out an email, or the school district sent out an email to all of the staff within the school district so that they could apply for the position if they were interested in staying in their school for an extra hour and a half on a Thursday and working it.
So it's teachers who are providing it?
So it's teachers that are providing it from the Middletown. I'm not hiring outside teachers. Okay. It's teachers that are within that district.
Within that building.
Typically within that building. If no one from that building applied for it, then we have 3 or 4 people, I'm trying to remember our list from yesterday, 3 or 4 people from the high school and from the middle school that are nearby. So if someone's at High School North, they might come to one of our, and they dismiss earlier, which is nice, they have time to take a break, and then they'll go to one of the schools that Max and Brian assign them to.
Is there a ratio per student?
There is not right now. I mean, our ratio is 1 to 12 basically, and we're going to see what the needs are. And this is a new piloted program that we're starting. And as we said with the teachers yesterday, if they're they're the expertise. If they're in our site and they're seeing that there's a larger need and that they could use extra help because there's more kids coming to them at once, then we'll put a second person there.
What we can do is we can work together, and you can write a quick summary up of all this stuff.
I'll be happy to.
And then we can push it out to all you guys, so
Yep.
that any details you may have missed, we can make sure that you guys will get that.
Yep.
Is there an incremental cost to the parents for the tutoring services?
There is not.
Or is it baked in? Okay.
There is not. Is that the same question?
Sorry,
Yes,
more quickly.
that's
Margie,
okay. I'll make these here for you.
is it possible, especially the counseling services, I don't feel like many parents in the district are aware this is there. Can you, in the minutes, maybe whatever is on the website, we put in there, and then possibly even through Facebook or some through Twitter, or the district push out more info about the counseling that we can then share on our PTA?
This information that you provide us, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a flyer that I can share.
Yeah, share.
Great.
What we'll try to do is maybe we'll work together to gather everything together, like one big package, I can send that out to you fellas. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I had a really bad night.
And we have a parent resources page too.
Yeah, so we can get that all gathered together, and then you can take it piecemeal, whatever works for you and whatever works for your sites, and you can share as needed. And if you need more information from that, we can filter it down to you too. Okay. So if there's unanswered questions that you come up with, that you say, oh my gosh, my parents would love to know more about this, get them to me, I'll get them to the representatives, and then we'll get them back to you.
Which is part of also why we're videotaping it now too. You can always confirm back.
Which I'm, really not too comfortable with.
But we do have a parent resource page, and we'll make sure all that information is on there.
Thank you.
Now, I don't know, I thought a question was asked.
It's okay.
Is this only for kids in the Y? Or
Yes, it's part of our after-school
Okay, so
program.
kids outside of the Y program will not have access to
No, they have to be registered for the after-school.
Wait, for the tutoring, yes, for the counseling, yeah.
Right.
On the tutoring piece, for kids who are not enrolled in the after-school, before and after-school program, the Bayshore Family Success Center, which is across the street at the Henry Hudson Trail, offers tutoring to all district students for free on Saturdays. And I can share that information to be put on the
Along with a lot of other family workshops,
yeah.
I've attended many things.
A ton of stuff, but if you're looking for tutoring.
That's our Y as well. Same Y.
Same Y.
All grades?
All grades, yeah. And it's volunteer honor students that do the tutoring on the weekends for us. And we have 3 locations. The Success Center in Leonardo, the library in Union Beach, and I believe the library in Keyport also.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the bride-to-be, Mrs. Gallagher. Mrs. Gallagher, she's the reason we have this fine. She's getting married this weekend. Congratulations.
We were going to take that down after our shower the other day, but we thought maybe we could. Of course, Amy didn't know that. Mrs. Gallagher.
I'll bring this up in after we talk generally about the budget process. Good morning, welcome, and we just want to give you an update of where we are with the budget. Again, like we've said in previous meetings, it's basically almost a year-round process at this point, pretty much is a year-round process at this point. We are just getting started though with pushing information out to the departments and the schools. For those of you who aren't familiar, we build the budget basically from the bottom up, and we will start with getting inputs and having discussions and getting requests from the individual building principals and administration, and also from the departments, facilities and technology, and all the other departments that we have, curriculum, and we do all this information gathering in the fall to get an idea of what specifically we'd be looking for to put include in the budget for next year. And we have to look at things that are we prioritize between things that are absolutely necessary for health and safety, and those items get priority. We have to look at all of our curriculum initiatives and where we stand with those, and rewriting curriculums or new adoptions and things like that. Technology, we have to go through all of those needs that we have, as far as replenishing machines that we have and anything new that we're looking to get, and all across the district. So we do all that information gathering in the fall. We have conversations and discussions and basically roundtables with the administrative team and the principals through basically the holidays. We keep the board updated on our progress during that time. Then normally around January is where we really start doing more of the public discussions with the board, and we go through things. Last year we did a series of public budget meetings. I think we had 3 leading up to the tentative budget presentation, which was a full presentation of the budget. We think that worked well. It allowed everybody to see the board going through all this information. We will utilize some of the board committees to dig down deeper into this information as well. But we're really just getting that whole machine ramped up. We have been looking over the summer at, looking at last year's results and where we stand, and projecting out into the next year, or actually the following year, for major items. We're always looking at personnel, benefits, things of that nature. One thing I'm going to show you though is now that we know the effects of what's going to be happening with state aid, with the legislation that came out, S2, where we've already lost aid over the last few years, and we know what the projection is going to be through the next 5 years. We were taking a look and doing some very rough overview projections of where we would stand with our revenue and expenses going out through 24-25, which would be the last year of the S2 implementation. Now, we can estimate what our aid losses are going to be, but they will also vary based upon enrollment. I mean, we can take the percentages that were in the legislation, but if our enrollment goes down, that will also cause further reductions in our aid. We are just, October 15th is when we take our snapshots every year for the state, and we file a report that gets finalized, somewhere around the end of November, but we take that enrollment snapshot. And the preliminary numbers that we're looking at for that October 15th snapshot do again show, our enrollment ticking down. So we have that to deal with on top of the other factors. So what I'd like to show you is what we went over with the board and the finance committee, a very rough projection on how things could look over the next 5 years or so. And again, it's very high level. So, we have our revenue at the top and our appropriations at the top, revenue at the bottom. And I think I have to scroll this up a little more so you can see. But it's going to show you that, sorry, I don't know if I can get this, you can see the whole thing. But basically it's going to show you that comparing the two, our biggest revenue is from our tax levy. So assuming and rolling this forward at the 2% increase that is allowable by law, to include into your budget, we're able to generate increased revenues, as I've shown here on this line. However, based upon expenses, now this is a very rough estimate of expenses. It's hard to project out, hard numbers, but what we did was we rolled forward salaries based upon an average increase that would be given in salaries, but doesn't take into account if there's any further reductions in staff and things along those lines. Capital expenditures, we haven't included anything there except for what we're already committed to as far as we have a copier lease across the district. So again, these numbers are without any major capital projects that we do, and we normally do projects around the district. I mean, right now we're finishing up the upgrade of the North Auditorium. In recent years we've had to replace a football field, we've rebuilt a stage over at South, we've done a variety of things. So it's not, that is something we'll have to factor in here, but we wanted to, talk to the board about just the fact that even with our operating expenses and the revenues as we project them and factoring in, the aid ticking down from our current level of 16.6 million down to an estimate of 12.6 million at the end of this implementation, we are going to, this is this year, of course we're balanced. Next year, we would be looking at roughly 2.2 million of a deficit between revenues and expenses, and then increasing through the 24-25 year to about 9.4 million. Now, this is again without capital expenditures and without any other changes in our operation. This is as we look right now. So as far as staff reductions or any other type of expenses that we could cut, this is what it looks like. So it is something that we're going to have to grapple with over the next 5 years. And it's something we've been talking about as we roll into our new strategic planning process that's kicking off in a week or so. That although there's a lot of things we want to achieve in the district and maintain our programs and keep everything going as far as the good things that we're doing here in Middletown, this is not something that we can ignore. We have to, also take into account that we're going to need to make adjustments so that we don't have negative numbers here and that our budget is balanced. So, this is a very high-level overview, but we thought it was important. We are going to be talking about it in strategic planning. We have talked about it with the board, and not to be told a buzzkill on a Tuesday morning, but it's just the facts, and we're not alone. I mean, these types of discussions are going on all over the state with districts and the monies that have been cut. And I was talking to the ex-business administrator of Asbury Park yesterday at a meeting, and she lives in Asbury Park, and she was saying, I don't know what Asbury's going to do. They're losing $25 million now. I know they've been widely publicized and having a high cost per pupil and so forth, but that's, no matter what, that's a big hit, for a district like that that's smaller than us, but this is going on all over the state. So
and in Monmouth County too, same thing with Kingsburg, which is our neighbor to the north. I just want to point out a couple other things. Some of you might remember last year that I went and testified to the Budget Appropriations Committee on special education aid, and we did get an uptick in special education aid based on our efforts with my colleagues from across the state, who talked about the competing agendas that we have in a district, that a lot of districts do, where we have this decrease in overall enrollment, but increase in special education populations, and increase in special education populations are more expensive. But as we continue to research and do our homework, Mrs. Gallagher and I came across the fact that but those appropriation increases were only equal to where we were in, I think, like 2012.
Yeah,
so
it was
just
basically,
and the other thing that I think is important about what Mrs. Gallagher is saying, these are just estimates, but I will say this: our trend has been over the last 2 years, in the loss of 1.7 million that we have so far, that our losses exceeded the preliminary numbers that were given to us. So we know, basically as we continue to have this declining enrollment, over the next 5 years, we're talking about at least $4 million decrease to where we are now, based on the current funding formula of X2. Now, is it possible that could change? Yes, follow it, write your legislators, but I don't see a clear path in which that's going to happen based on our close review, communication with our legislators. It does not seem hopeful to us at this point that some type of change like that will happen. So that's why it's really important for us to be completely transparent with where we are with our budget, but at the same time to make sure that that conversation takes us right into the strategic planning conversation. So here's what we want you to know coming in. As we have our first round of forums coming up in a week, or just over a week. Next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, that information is all available on the website. Is that we are not coming to you with solutions. We're coming to you with issues like the funding formula, and our goal, my goal as superintendent, is to make sure that the public has a clear understanding of what drives the board's decision making, because like when we talk about something like class size, as far as the board's concerned, we would all like lower class sizes. An administrative team, we would all like lower class sizes. But we have to start with our truths, where we are on the way in, so we can speak through realistic expectations about prioritizing what we need to do to maintain the current outstanding programs that our taxpayers and citizens and parents, and most importantly our students, have become accustomed to. So that's really how the process is going to go. So as you know, we're working with Schoolhouse Strategies. They are going to facilitate, that's the word we said we're going to use, right, Ms. Scout? Precision of language is very important, Ms. Scout, and us too. We really thought about that, because that's what they're doing. They're facilitating for the board and for us as an administrative team based on the facts. So there's going to be like a 50 slide, which we're working very hard on right now, which will come out by next Monday or Tuesday, presentation, not all of which will we go over in that 2 hours. From our standpoint, to really maximize people showing up, we want you to know coming in, it's a 2-hour presentation. We're not going to exceed that, so people know that in a timely manner, in their very busy lives, they can get all of the information. That's one of the things that Schoolhouse Strategies thought was very important. You got to have a start time, you got to have an end time, and to provide those first 3 forms at different times, right? So we have one at 9:30 on the Saturday morning, we have one on a Friday morning at 9:30, and then of course we have Thursday night at 7 to 9. So, you know, that's where we are in the process. Our concern is that people are going to want to go right to solutions. I think we first have to clearly identify all of what the issues are, and then get feedback from our stakeholders, taxpayers, parents, staff members, board members, everyone get feedback about what those priorities should be, and then come transparently with potential solutions. So that's really what we're looking to do. Is there anything on that?
No, I mean, I guess just going back to the topic of state aid, and you know, there's a lot of discussion. There is a group of districts who are continuing to try to publicize and rally the legislature to give some relief on this S2 implementation. And you know, the only thing that you know, that they're not going to be able to take the money back from the districts that they've committed to, that have been underfunded for all these years because they were not getting funded up to their enrollments. And you know, the districts that they did reduce the aid from are districts that they are saying were overfunded. Now there's a lot of other questions about the formula and you know, the validity of how they calculate and how they allocate money. But you know, the only thing that I've heard that you know would be any possibility at all, but I don't know if they would even do it, is they're just trying to stretch out the implementation of this. So instead of having you know, the money all being taken out by that 24-25 year, you know, the group is pushing, well, can we push this to a 10-year implementation? Can we just lengthen the timeline so the impact isn't, you know, as quick? But again, there's been no movement on that. I haven't heard anything official. This is just something that group is trying to accomplish.
And I want you to know from us as an administrative team how we're working in that, so you know how we're working with our legislators, and we're speaking our truth. We do have a declining enrollment. We do have an increase in special education population. Many districts, unfortunately, throughout the state, and there are more that are getting additional funding than those that are losing funding. Or there's this dichotomy, let's say, between those that are getting funding and those that are losing funding. And there's a lot of talk about between those districts. We really are just focused on Middletown and working directly with our legislators and making sure that the State Department of Education and the DOE understands what our issues are, and so that we have the best chance of receiving fair, equitable funding with our fellow districts from across the state. That's really how we're doing. We think that's playing nice in the sandbox, being civil, working collaboratively with legislators and other districts gives us the best chance. And every child, and I know it is for all of you too, every child in the state, every child is important to us. I'm sure every child is important to you. We just want to make sure here in Middletown we get our fair share, and we're committed to make sure we're telling an accurate story so that we're credible, so that we can be positioned to do that.
Okay, any more questions for the soon-to-be bride before we close out her aspect?
We will definitely keep this group updated as we keep the board and the committees updated with information, and it'll be a process that will go through. Our budget, our tentative budget isn't submitted normally until sometime in March. So we're looking at the next 6 months or so being immersed in this, but we'll see what happens.
I'll give you a quick example of what we do in real time, right? So the advanced placement test, which is about $100,000 ticket item, and the vast majority is paid by the families and the students of Middletown. But there was a process to apply for a needs-based. Well, I just reviewed that with our central office administrative team yesterday. We have follow-up meetings with building level administrators. We're going to be budgeting for a dollar figure so that we can make sure those students that are need-based are going to get all of the financial support that they need so that they can take those tests. So that's just an example in real time of something that's happening, that we plan for, that we'll budget for, that through this process we'll bring to the board so that the board will understand. But we're getting a real good handle on just about every line item in that budget over the next 6 months, so we know exactly what we need to do to maintain our current programs.
Okay, let's move forward. Thank you very much. We're going to go to Dr. George and Mrs. Rogers for an update on the strategic plan. I don't think
I think that's it. It's Mrs. Rogers. Anything else?
Okay, that's it. Anybody else is here? Okay, so we'll turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, most importantly, we just want to get as many people we can to these forums. So it's October 17th at Townsend Middle School at 7 p.m. And you know, if you can read through the material, when are we putting that on the website, Dr. George? So next week.
There is a lot of material that's...
Read through it, skim through it, familiarize yourself with it. So that's the 17th at 7 p.m. There's at Bayshore Middle School is 9:30 a.m. on the Friday, and then Thorne is Saturday morning at 9:30. It's going to be a town hall style meeting, depending on how many people show up. So Schoolhouse Strategies will have a microphone, will go into the audience, and you'll be able to speak on different issues that you may be having. Or ideas that you have. And like Dr. George says, it's not really time for solutions, it's time to talk about things that we're having trouble with and that we need to address. And almost give us an idea of where our priorities are as a community, so the board knows where we stand. Very important to get everybody to fill out the strategic planning surveys online. I know that some of the schools, everyone's filled one out, so that's wonderful. We want to get as many people's input as we can. And I've told friends to bring their survey with them if they want to print it out to the forums so they remember what they're thinking, if they get nervous speaking in public, kind of thing.
Are they reviewing the results of the survey in these forums, or?
Yes.
They were going to wait till after. Yeah, they want to take the data from the meetings.
Oh,
and then,
I thought you meant our
yeah, no, we already are. Yes,
Okay.
we
No,
are.
I meant are they like
No, we want to wait because we don't want to skew everybody's ideas. If we show you the results of the survey, we feel like we're at an end here and we know the answer already. We'd like to leave it open to discussion because we may have a lot of people there, and we're hoping we have a lot of people there. And we want to have an open, honest dialogue and open, honest discussion.
I think by the time we have the second forum in November
12th,
is
yeah.
when we would be sharing more of that survey information, because the survey will be closed by then, and it will be after those introductory meetings. So at that point, you know, I think the survey information will come into play at the forum.
So let me go back to what I thought the question was that was asked, which I didn't get right, which was, are we reviewing it? Yes, we are. The strategic planning committee is us as an administrative team. Chris, I know we're over 2,500.
Yeah, we're about close to 2,500 last time I checked it, which was on Friday.
So that's where we are right now, and we're identifying trends. We have over 10,000 written responses, because you can have more than one written response to a question. So we're in the process of digging through all that information with you know, Schoolhouse Strategies to try to find trends and that type of stuff. Chris is mining that data on a daily basis and reporting out to us.
Are they going to review at these introductory meetings how the process is going to work? Like how the community will be involved, like going forward to help build these solutions, or how is that going to work?
If you look online, if you go to our district site, it already says strategic planning 2000 to 2025, and it kind of walks it through. I don't know if you're at the board meeting where we gave a presentation to Deb and John and I. Yeah, it just walks it through the process. There'll be the forum 1 will be repeated 3 times. That's the first forum that I just told you about. Then we have forum 2, where we're supposed to more like prioritize where our goals are. And forum 3 is to give us some starting off point to come to solutions, right? But then there will be action plans that go into the future. So you won't see us vote on anything until, what do we say, like January, February? The board would have the final decision at the end if we decided that we were going to go forward with something. Yeah.
I know I wasn't part of strategic planning the last time, but I've heard that there were opportunities for the public to kind of work on little task forces to once the priorities are determined, say, okay, let's say blank is something we know we need to work on. So there's professionals from schoolhouse strategies, administrative team members, Board of Ed members potentially, and then will members of the public be recruited to kind of participate in the task forces?
Yeah,
or?
that's the idea. Yeah, once the action plans are put into place, we might call on you guys. I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys are very involved. So you might get called on for something like that, or something that might be your expertise, or the township committee might get called on if it's a facilities issue or shared services issue, things of that sort. Yeah.
That's all part to be determined though at the first forum. So ideas like that, bring that to the first forums, and or also Rachel, have attended 1 or 2 Board of Education meetings. I know I look forward to hearing what you have to say at 11:45. That's a great time. Any of those times, any of those here, there, as much as we're trying to be as transparent in this process as we can.
You also made a good point that the old strategic planning is on the website as well. So if you want to see how far we've come or what we've accomplished so far, you can look at that too.
Yeah, I guess in terms of us being able to go back to our communities and saying, here's what we're asking of you as a member of this process. Like, yes, fill out the survey, yes, go to the forums. Beyond that, are there opportunities for people who want to go above and beyond and really roll their sleeves up, or is it going to kind of be a handoff at that point to the professionals to kind of
That's to be determined by the board. That will not be determined by the professionals. That'll be determined by the board. But I will say this, that I caution everybody for. This is not my first rodeo, and when it comes to this, and that last rodeo, I got bucked pretty hard, and so did some other people. So what's important to make sure it doesn't happen is that there's a perception that there's an ad hoc committee or 25, 30 people that are making decisions, and this is what you might have heard Mr. Little talk about in our last, again, we're talking about this very transparently at every meeting, that something like that doesn't take place. Because let's remember, we have 10,000 students, we have 67,000 residents, we have approximately 20,000 parents. So when we look at this, that opportunity for surveying, that's why the board, we got a survey originally, to give you an example, and the board changed that survey to get more feedback, written feedback, and Schoolhouse Strategies was like, we've never had that many opportunities for written responses, and now we have 10,000 written responses, right? So we have to be careful to make sure that we're transparent, we're inclusive. So what that will look like, I can't tell you. I know we want to hear from you in the forum about what you think it should look like. We want to hear that from everybody, or in your written responses. All that will be reviewed. The board will work with the administrative team and Schoolhouse Strategies to come up with recommendations about what that should look like. But we do have to be very careful that we're not in a situation where there's this perception that 30 people are driving and then there's a lack of trust into because there always will be. Because at the end of the day, here's what's inevitable. There'll be a significant number of people that are for substantial change. They'll probably be least likely to speak up. They'll work under the auspices of what's going on. There'll be those that'll be resistant or have concerns. People who have concerns will be most likely to speak up. And at the end of it all, the board will be charged with making a decision, because I think what's really important for everybody to understand that we didn't get all the way to last time around is that no change is not an option. Financially, no change is not an option when we look at the next 5 years. And I think that's where we all have to begin with those truths so that we understand it, so we can think about, okay, then it comes into the community. What is your priorities? Where do you see your priorities as a community? And how can we best meet your needs as an administrative team and an elected board, elected officials? How can we work with you? And who else should we communicate with? I know we're looking to work or to give the opportunity for the township and the taxpayers, and most certainly the parents too. So we just have to come to those priorities.
And we're meeting with the seniors on October 24th.
Yes,
we have Mayor Perry involved in that too. And the Township Committee's been wonderful. They've been helping us out as well, trying to get it out to the community. They have it in that Friday minutes that they do. Yeah. Do you know?
Do you know the percentage of families that have responded, or just general respondents that are school-aged families versus the general?
We do. We know, like more than 60%, this is just off the top of my head, it might not be, and Chris, if I'm wrong at any time, correct me, I'll jump in. I feel comfortable to do that. But more than 60%, as it should be, are K to 8, right?
Yep.
About 30% are staff, 20 to 30%. It continues to go down now, as more, because the staff got involved early, and the more those numbers go up, the more those staff numbers go down. But the percentages between K to 8 and high school are about right where they should be for a representative of the total student body, you know, because K to 8 represents more than 2/3 of the total body. Yes?
At the last board meeting, there was a question about where the kids from the new development would be going to school. Is that going to be under strategic planning, or is that going to be under?
That's a great question. I wanted it on the agenda for the 28th, the meeting on the 28th, on October 28th. But what's happening now is construction hasn't even really started yet. So where the township told us that we had to be ready for September, the children, they won't even be in there by September. So we really don't have to worry about it till 2021. So in which case, it will just become part of the strategic planning process at this point.
The board, if you heard that discussion, it was a great discussion from the board. It was, you know, the board, there were two sides to that discussion from the board. One was that we needed to take immediate action, and then the other perspective was if we take immediate action, then we're working under a current plan like has been done over years and years in the past. There was public criticism of the spot redistricting or at that night, or taking immediate action as opposed to taking a more comprehensive view of this. So that's still a decision of the board. If the board at any point comes to, hey, we have a majority of the board that wants to do this now, between now and then, Pam is a democratic, inclusive leader. She'll work with, you know, with the board to do that. But I completely agree with the statement you made, Pam. Where we are right now is in a holding pattern for further discussion with the board.
I would just, like, I would assume the real estate agents would not say what those schools, you know, the sending schools, because they're going to start selling these properties, right? So
I was trying to get ahead of it, you know.
Yeah.
I was
no, I
really
just
trying
want
to,
to say makes sense. You know, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into something before we're, you know, the strategic plan.
Yeah, we don't need to now. We're not in a position where we need to. At first, I thought we were, but we're not. So, yeah, we can take our time.
But I think for people, one thing that everyone should say to anyone moving in anywhere in the community is that change is apparent. Yeah. We don't know what that change is going to look like, you know, yet, and nor should we. We should really run through this process. There's a number. I'll tell you this though, just another example of how, and normally whenever there's change, there's distrust. There was such distrust over the demographic study. The demographic studies played out pretty true to form. You know, there was a lot of talk about how we were doing it, what it would look like. But one thing's sure, that we do have a declining enrollment. Now, it hasn't happened as sharply as those projections, but there still continues to be that decline, and it's significant, and it is going to continue to impact funding. All of that was what was talked about before. I think what I would say about what happened last time around, working through an ad hoc committee, is I think with the board, we started from a position of greatest good. And we looked at everything. We literally looked at everything, working with the board. And the administration was actively involved in that process. We really were. And then, over time, through the input of the ad hoc committee and the general public, we got to a place of least harm. When we got to that place of least harm, what happens is you have significant opposition because it's lost the process of greatest good. So if I could say honestly and transparently, from my leadership as superintendent, what I expect us to stay focused on a position of greatest good. We really do have to look at equity in this situation. Middletown is an incredibly unique community. You know, we have 12 elementary schools, we have 17 schools, we have the wealthiest of the wealthy population in the county, and we were equal to any Title I, urban, anything else, rural, urban school district in the state and other areas of our community. So, you know, we really have to stay focused on that equity for all students and how we can deliver that. You know, and what is it that is most important to our community? Is it lower class sizes? Is it newer facilities? I'm just throwing out ideas, right? I mean, I'm just throwing out thoughts of how it would be prioritized. All of that is what we're going to get out of our surveys. It's what we're going to get out of our forums. And then the board is going to have to take a comprehensive look at all that and make decisions based on that. And it is up to the board to make, they're the ones charged as elected officials to do that. And it's our responsibility, you know, as the administrative team, particularly the central office team, to lead with them and to take ownership of that process with them. And we're going to do that from our end too.
I think you made a good point about enrollment, the perception of enrollment, right? If you're in a part of town where your schools are crowded, you think that there's tons of kids in the schools, and you're like, the enrollment's not going down, they're lying to me. But it is, district-wide, it's going down. And what we ask is when you come to these forums, try to think of the entire district as a whole and not just your little school or your little community, because that's really what we're taxed with. All of us, you know, especially the board members, but all of us who want to pitch in and help, we need to start thinking of it as one Middletown.
This summer, you may, I'm sure many of you are around, because these are familiar faces that I see in meetings in a lot of cases, that we had significant concerns about enrollment from across the community. One of the big misperceptions was that there were certain schools that were overcrowded and there were other schools that were not. And when we went to those class caps, that if we were talking about the middle school, it was only happening at Thompson. Or if we were talking about the elementary schools, it was happening at Nut Swamp primarily. But what we were able to do in those forums, both at our board meetings and a great meeting that we had at Lincroft School, because of construction coming online, they are seeing an uptick. But I just want to say on that too, you know, going back to that demographic study, it still does not exceed what that demographic study said it was going to be. So when we were able to share all those facts with over 100 people in the room, and there were people in the room that were really frustrated, and I understand that, because we are too, because none of us want to put a cap of elementary on elementary schools, of upper elementary, of 27 or 25 in lower elementary. That doesn't work for any of us. We'd like that to be significantly lower. That was clear to those 100 people that were in that room that that was a priority. And we were able to work through what the process was going to look like, and it was a very respectful, positive meeting, as were some of our forums that we had in our Board of Education meetings as well. And I suspect this is going to go that way, because this is a great community. And this is a community that really does look to the greater good, and that's what we're trying to do here. And we're going to be democratic with that process, and we're going to be transparent.
I know Amy mentioned sharing, because that document that Amy put up was, that talks about what's happening over the next 5 years and the challenge that you're faced with. I would assume that's something that you'll be presenting at these upcoming first forums.
But it's also going to be part of the minutes. And I always say, you know, for those of you who are new, to PIC, I've always said that, first of all, we're very grateful you're here. You know, we really are. And I see some new faces. And it's really important that you're here. And it's never our perception that you're to take our perspective. We're not trying to give you a perspective. We're trying to share facts with you and asking you that you help us as, you know, one point of contact to communicate those things to your school community. So we can just be seen as a board for our true intention. That's it. So yeah, this will be part of the minutes. And yes, we're sharing that at the forum. And the board has that in their board portal. And that was reviewed with the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting in their last meeting in September.
and you each have an adoptive board member. And if they haven't reached out to you yet, or you haven't been able to get in touch with them, it's under Board of Education, and it says Adopt a School Liaison, Adopt a School. So feel free to reach out to that board member, or reach out to myself, and I'll get you in touch with that board member, and they can help you with your questions as well.
The presentation that's getting posted Monday or Tuesday, kind of the pre-4 presentation, like I'm assuming it's like a state of the state, here's what we're dealing with, and this is our challenges moving forward?
It's a profile.
Okay.
I assure you
It's
this.
meant to be a reference.
Okay, good. So is it going to be gone through slide by slide at the forum, or should we come having read it? Like, should we be educating our community, say, do your homework, read through this before you show up?
It's going to be highlighted at the forum, but obviously, like Dr. George said, it's over 50 slides.
Okay.
It's not going to be slide by slide, but it will remain on the website for a reference for everybody.
Okay.
We have that strategic planning. I assure you there'll be very little, Rachel, that you haven't already seen. But it's all really important. And to your point, we want everyone to see it.
Well, that's it.
And that's what you want. You
all
want
of
everyone
our
to see
challenge
it.
has been like we're the people who come and we know, and we, people at Board of Ed meetings, I see all these faces, and it's more trying to get the rest of our communities to invest the time and realize how important it is. And everybody's busy, we know, but knowing the facts really helps. And I think a lot of times people jump to an emotional conclusion before reading the facts, and it goes both ways. Like we all just need to be on the same page with the facts, and then we can work together to come up with identifying the priorities and then the solutions. So I just want to make sure we know what we need to tell our people in terms of preparing them for what to expect, so that it's as productive as possible when everybody's in the room.
Well, my plan was to put together like a reminder email with the dates to remind, like an information push out, and I can put the link to that presentation as part of that don't forget to show up kind of email that I'm going to send out to everybody. So we can do that too. We can do like embedded in. No. Like just for the new folks, sometimes outside of the minutes, because sometimes the minutes take a while to get together. What I try to do is if there's specific things that happen during the course of the meeting that are very, very important informationally, I will get those out individually as like an update. Like for instance with the why. I'll try to get that obviously in advance of the minutes so that you have that as a resource, and then that will also be included in the minutes. But I find sometimes the best way to communicate information to everybody is to not think of it as just minutes driven, but as information driven. So what I'll do is when you guys are ready to post that link, I'll put that out as a package where I'll also remind, I'll send out the dates again, here's where the meetings are going to be, here's where the forums are going to be held, here's the times, and also here's a link to that presentation. So then you can package that and then do whatever you'd like with it. Post it on your PTA pages, post it on your Facebook pages. We'll package that together and get that out to you as well.
Oh, can I also ask, I know the Facebook presence has been tremendous, the improvement this year. Like as a parent of only middle and elementary kids, I'm not as much in Twitter land yet. I know that's coming, and I'm trying to stay away from it as much as I can. But
it's great.
This year, I know it's overwhelming.
MTPS Pride. It puts you in
no, I do go. I follow everybody. I go.
It's in Instagram, it's in Facebook, and it's on Twitter.
This year I've noticed with Facebook in particular, the posts by the district have been great. Like a lot of information coming out. Yes, no, I know it's due to you, so thank you. It helps for us. I know, like we share, like the Knoxville PTA or Thompson PFA will share posts by the district to our communities out. So if when that do your homework presentation, kind of the primer comes out next week, if you could post on your social media channels as a district, it makes it so much easier for us to really push it out through those same channels to our communities. So it's just a request.
Good.
Thanks.
Good question. I've seen a little bit on our social media from Lincroft what the expectation is, and I heard that there'll be a presentation, sort of a profile, and then the public can get up and speak. Is that sort of just how it will go? I mean, some people aren't sure what to expect when they go, if they're just listening, or how much time they'll need to speak. So
there is going to be, when it's finalized by the committee, there is going to be like an agenda that shows the breakdown in time. We can't tell you directly if it's going to be a walk around with a mic, or if you're going to be filling out on flashcards, or how else they're going to do it. Their use, Dave Hesby, former commissioner of New Jersey, commissioner of education of New Jersey, he's used the big forums, small forums, but they're handled differently. So they're going to base that based on the size of the crowd, but you're still going to get a breakdown on when that comes out on Monday or Tuesday of exactly how long it's going to be, how long for each area, so you have a clear understanding. Like in, the first 10 minutes are going to be the introductions, the next 30 minutes are going to be identifying the issues. Time after that is going to be for feedback from the community and what that's going to look like. But it looks differently if there's 200 people there than if there's 50 people there. Because he wants to hand a mic to everybody who wants one. But most importantly, we want to get feedback from everybody who wants to provide feedback. So it might have to go to flashcards, you know?
Postcards.
Might be a world,
Yeah, he's gonna have postcards for people who are either too shy to speak in public or don't get a chance to speak because there's so many people there. So he's gonna have little postcards to fill out.
So there will be some opportunity for everyone to provide feedback.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And also you can always email us. You can, you know, rogerspa@middletownk12.org. You can always email me and then I read it.
And there actually is a strategic planning email, you know, that really you should send that information to. It's on the website. I don't remember the address, but it's on the strategic planning page of the website. We have a specific Gmail box set up for strategic planning, and please feel free to.
We can include that.
That's a great point, Mrs. Gallagher,
Yes,
because Schoolhouse Strategies is taking all that written feedback and they're processing it.
Yeah, we can include the.
Mr. Rotolo's already sent them, we've already sent them, you know, information. We're trying to figure out exactly how to deal with these over 10,000 responses right now, how we can break them down, how we can break them into trends, all of that kind of stuff, to represent the written feedback.
I know we talk in this room about the declining enrollment, but I'm just curious, in the presentation, will it specifically pinpoint what the decline has been? Because I think one of the challenges that we have, and I've been in the school district a long time, I have a child in high school, so when he was in Lincroft Elementary, he had 25 kids in his class from the time he started. My younger son, who this is his last year, we have 3 classes. So to me, I see that declining enrollment because I've lived through the days when Lincroft had over 500 children. But I think for a lot of our newer families who have moved into the new developments, they don't know that reality. So I think, you know, we can continue to say the enrollment's declining, but unless they see those numbers of, you know, what was it in 2010, 11, 12?
And we do that as part of our budget presentation every year, but you're right, the more we can do that, it is clear to me that not everybody understands that. There are different perceptions, just like the perception is, well, the schools on the west side of town are really crowded and the schools on the east side of town, you know, are not, when we know, depending on what grade, what the grade level, that every one of our 12 elementary schools are capped, you know? So it just depends on the grade level. But yes, we need to continue to tell that as much as we possibly can, like the financial situation.
And their perspective is really what class they're most familiar with. Yeah. So, you know, you could be talking about the 3rd grade class and saying, oh, it's, you know, there are so many kids, but then the 4th grade class you look at and there are, you know, 25% less children, and they don't see that because they're not interacting at those levels.
So true. It's hard to see past your own little class, you know, or your own little school, and it's a challenge to think like that.
Okay.
That was a huge hurdle for us last time around here.
Right, I bet. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move the meeting forward. I'll make sure that the email, the strategic planning email, the general email is included in that package of information. And so that you don't have to.
Strategic planning. It's strategic planning at middletownk12.org.
Okay. No problem. So
we have an 11 o'clock strategic planning meeting, but I don't want to leave until the Friends of Different Homes.
All right, so let's turn the meeting over to Magali. Mrs. Milton has been part of Middletown's Friends of Diverse Learners for a long time, and she and Dr. Stafford, for those of you who don't know, are our parent representatives, and now we'll turn the meeting over to her.
Sure. Just a couple of announcements. Can people hear me? I don't have a good voice. There's all this buzz behind me. So yes, we are a parent organization that exists to support the families that have students with special needs. So we have parent meetings and administrator meetings, and we try to work on ways to improve communication and programs and policies. So basically, we have our parent schedule here. So we have some flyers over there for anybody who is interested. So we already began this year. This is also on the district website under student services, but it would really help us if you could get your flyers out into your social media pages. I mean, that's how really most parents hear about us. And I know there's some new faces, so if you could see me with your social media contact, that's also a good way for us to push the information out. So this is our flyer. We meet at the public library in Middletown once a month. And then we're also really excited that we are going to put together an inclusion conference, and this is in November. And this is a really great topic to get educated on. It's actually got a very broad interest, not only for parents with students with special needs, but also for staff, community members. So it's really open to all, anyone who wants to learn about it. And we have this great expert coming in who's actually working with the district as a consultant. And he's coming in to talk about what high quality inclusion looks like. So he will be able to tell us how other districts are being successful in this, all kinds of strategies. And even for parents who have students that are typical and have other students in the class that have special needs, there's even data indicating how those students perform better when you have students with special needs. So it seems like a paradox, but I think in this time of budget and discussion, it's also good to know that this is budget neutral. So it kind of raises all scores. It's a really wonderful thing. So this will be in November. So if you could help us get the word out, it's not a lot of time, but it's at Middletown High School North. So we're really grateful to the district for providing the venue. And we're also excited that our new special education director will be there, Dr. Tiedemann. So for parents who would like to just informally meet her, I'm kind of not committing her to come. She said she'd come, but now I think I'm boxing her in. So anyway.
She's excited about it, though, too. She thinks this is a great program, great organization.
Yes. So I understand she's worked with this consultant in the past, so we're very excited to partner on this project. So yes, if anybody would like to meet her informally, she will be there. Any questions?
I have a question. I posted this to our Improv PTA page, it was emailed to us, but the email said that the next meeting was December 17th, but you still have TBD for the fall. Is there still a TBD or?
So now this
okay, that's
presentation is the TBD, and I do have an updated flyer.
Okay.
So Margie, I'll send that to you and you'll send it out. Yes. So yeah, we didn't want to put a parent meeting and a presentation, and there's forums, so it was just too much.
Can you send that to us too? Because we'll make sure we get it out on Facebook and everything.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Is there a Facebook event for this? I usually see it on Facebook, but I haven't.
We just nailed it down
Okay,
yesterday.
so there will be one, and then we could share that.
I will put one on our page, and if you give me your contact information, then you guys can share it out. Okay. Thank you so much for all your help.
Again, Middletown Friends of Personalized is trying to go a little bit more high-tech, so I believe using the tick emails, I think Heather or someone reached out to try to get everybody to, who hasn't already turned in your contact information, your emails, so that they can give an information push as well when they have stuff. I forget what the forum, I forget how you guys were organizing your more online ways of getting information out there, but I think Heather was kind of spearheading that.
We have a list of representatives, social media representatives, and we actually have someone who does that, and one of the volunteers will get in touch with you. Erica and Casey who does social media.
Yeah, so if for the new members.
We'll set it up.
Yeah.
We can set it up as an event, or we can set it up as a flyer on our page for sharing.
So we have access to our community, we can just share directly.
That's easier. That's a lot easier. Yeah. So, but then you all have to give us access. So that's
right. You still have it. I was checking the other
good.
day.
Okay.
So I have just a few things. Committeewoman Snell would like to start a fundraiser, and I know she reached out to Danielle Walsh about it to get the presidents involved. Oh, she didn't yet? Okay. So she asked me to ask you guys at PIC. It's just for the Murray Farmhouse in Forestry Park is in really bad shape. It needs to be repaired. And she thought it would be nice to get the school children involved in doing a fundraiser. Whatever loose change they have around, just put out a jug at your school and collect money for improvements on the Murray Farmhouse. So, I said that I would bring it to you guys and see what you think and just put it out there. We have a Safe Schools meeting on October 16th with the Safe Schools Committee. So I just wanted to update everyone on that. We also have a strategic planning meeting coming up. I wanted to tell everybody, I don't know if you all know about the Whitsom's guest chef, David Burke, was at High School South on October 2nd, so that was really exciting. And these are things that you can follow on Twitter, hashtag MTPS Pride, or if you follow me at Pam Dance on Twitter, you follow Dr. George. A lot of the good things about the district will be told on Twitter. Walter Cahill, if you follow Walter Cahill, there was a situation with parking at High School South, and he updates you guys pictures of everything that he's been doing to update, and that's really helpful too. I just wanted to tell people about that. I'm sure you all know that we have our Future Ready Silver distinction, so that's something exciting that happened in the district. And I think that's it, really. From the board meetings, I would like Chris to tell you about this new newsletter.
Would you like me to, to come up? Or?
Yes, yeah.
I'll come behind. That's where the
Yes,
camera's
you should be on
focused.
camera, please.
Well, that's where the camera's focused. I'm going to stand behind But yeah, as Pam mentioned, one of the items I've been tasked with in my new role here, we spoke about communications about the strategic plan, communications about the wonderful initiatives that we have going on, Future Ready Silver distinction. There are a lot of incredible things that we are achieving in this district that aren't happening everywhere else. And a lot of things that we're working on. And I'm not sure we do a great enough job of doing our own work, really. So these are things that we're working on as communications. Through the Facebook page, through social media, through emails, digital communications, our website. We have a lot of tools at our disposal. One thing that we're going to introduce is a new newsletter that we're going to be rolling out end of this week, early next week. And it's going to communicate these things with our stakeholders, with our parents, with teachers, staff, just so we can have a collective place where we're going to share ideas, show what's going on around our district, meetings, just different initiatives that we have going on that we're going to have better communication about. And hopefully through that, we're going to have the sharing of ideas, we're going to be able to achieve greater things throughout the district. So this is something that I'm working on with Dr. George, and again, like I said, we're going to be rolling it out fairly soon.
So is this going out in email to parents, or is this going on the district website?
Both places.
Okay, so you're getting email?
Yes, so there will be emails that go out to, like we do with School Messenger right now. It's going to be similar to that. So again, it's going to come right to your inboxes. Again, filling with great information about what we're doing, how it relates to our educational initiatives.
I love it. And speaking of emails, can I just say one quick thing? If parents aren't getting the emails, they should go onto the parent portal and they can update their contact information. So just check to make sure their email is there and it's accurate, because a lot of them were put in years ago when we first got the emails, and they were done by secretaries, so a 1 or an L or a 0 or an O might have gotten mixed up. So just go on and verify it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. And when you receive these, please feel free to share them. Like you said, maybe information isn't updated right now. So if you receive an email, if you have a group, if there's a group account, any sort of school groups, please share links, send it around, send the information around so that we can become more tightly knit for town our school. We want to share ideas.
So you don't have to sign up for this, this is just going to get pushed to everybody?
It's going to get pushed to everybody. That is in our system. Again, if you have friends that maybe they don't have students that are in the district right now, but maybe they want to keep up with what's going on, we're going to set up a system for them to enter their email in so they can be subscribers to the newsletter. So please let them know about it. Maybe they're not, maybe they don't have kids in the district. So we still want to reach them. And
how often?
I'd like to do a week. I'm trying to do a weekly in some form. Yeah, like I said, this first one. Yeah, like trying to do at least twice a month.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Dr. George, did you want to introduce our guests as well?
Yeah, I want to thank our principals for being with us, Principal Thompson and Principal Port Monmouth. Thank you so much. They're going to be our reps this year. So I don't know if there's anything that you guys want to add.
Next time I'm sitting on that side, it's cold back.
It's a little loud back there too.
I'm not giving up my jacket.
No, but very informative. Thank you for having us, and I look forward to working with you this year.
Thank you very much for making this happen. Okay. Danielle.
Yeah, just real quick. We're starting the President's Council back up. It starts October 29th at 6:30 p.m. I see a lot of the presidents are here today, but the ones that aren't, if you could just remind your presidents how important it is that everybody is a part of it. And if you as PIC members want to talk to your presidents about any topics that you want covered, turns out we may have something to do with the Township Committee. Who knew? First time hearing of it.
So sorry.
But we're definitely going to be talking about fundraising, and Pam said that she would come and talk about the updates to the strategic plan, which might be even newer because they're meeting on the 17th or the 29th, so she'll have a little bit of updates for the presidents to get out information to you guys. So please let your presidents know. It's important that we get everybody there. We have a much higher turnout this year so far, if everybody who said they're coming are coming. And if for some reason the president or vice president cannot be there, you are more than welcome to send a representative. That may be the PIC representative to represent the president or the vice president.
And typically the meetings are here?
They are here, yeah, it's here at 6:30. Dr. George was invited, but I invited someone from administration. That said, they're not required to be here. I know it's late, so if they can make it, great. If they don't, they don't. But either way, it's a great place for you guys to exchange ideas, especially this time of year with fundraising, on what works and what doesn't work. And there's also the new website. Hope had started a Facebook page for anybody who's not on it, who's a president or vice president. It's MTPS President's Council.
And you know, Danielle, I want to be there if anytime I don't have.
No, I know you. I know it's on your schedule, but we also understand if you're busy and things come up. You know, it's really about the president. So it's it's.
And there's babysitting.
Right?
No babysitting.
Oh, that's the newest thing. Yes, my tutor is going to be babysitting. Bring your kids. Kids are not excuse not to come to school. So you have that back right there. You can see them. They're right there, and I'm really excited about the babysitting because that's great. So.
We could get her volunteer hours for National Honor
It's free,
Society.
and it's her volunteer hours, and even though I'm running PIC, I'm going to make Dr. George sign off on her volunteer hours.
I will.
Like, be cool. But yeah.
Can you repeat the Facebook page?
The Facebook page, MTPS President's Council, and it's just for the presidents and vice presidents.
And the occasional picture.
And there's the page with the PIC chair, and there's a handful of Board of Ed members that might be on it. You know, we only meet, we're only going to meet 3 times a year because you guys have 100 other things to do. So use the Facebook page for if you have questions, if you have ideas that just, you want to talk to each other. I'm using it to push out information whenever it comes up, so.
All right, so we've kind of moved through everything. Again, the only reminder I have is if you wouldn't mind to reach out to your parent organizations and say that PIC needs $10 so that we can get bagels. I'd really appreciate it. And that's pretty much the end of the meeting. If there's any topics, again, don't forget, new members, please email me. I'm PIC12 at my email 1,000 times. And thank you very much for coming, and I appreciate the time that it took for you to be here. Thank you.
Please take some coffee to go.